What is up, Kombuchade crew? Just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the Kombuchade origin story today. It's something I don't think I've publicly talked about much. Maybe some of my friends or family have heard me tell the story, but I don't think in its entirety. So I'm going to share the entire thing with you guys today. So I'm trying to remember what came first, if it was sports or entrepreneurship. But honestly, I think they both kind of came in around the same time. I've always played sports since I was a kid. Started out playing t-ball, playing soccer. But I have memories of in maybe second or third grade. So I was probably playing soccer first, but second or third grade, I learned how to braid these like friendship bracelets. And I remember starting a little operation at my elementary school where I would ask people what colors they wanted, if they wanted beads on it. And we would make them during recess. I got a couple other people I would teach them how to make it to. And eventually we got shut down. The teacher and the principal didn't like that we were running this little bracelet sweatshop in elementary school. So for as long as I can remember, it was always sports and some kind of creative hobby that was also entrepreneurial in some way. So from there, continued to play soccer, got into football in middle school. I wasn't very good. Actually, I sucked. I wasn't good at all. But I liked it, and a lot of my friends did it. And there was something about doing something that you're not good at and slowly progressing and seeing yourself get better that I've always had a passion for. So I stuck with it, kept playing football, started working my second job, which was mowing lawns in the summertime. I started out mowing my dad's lawn, and he would pay me $15 for the lawn and another $5 for the weed whacker or the trimmer. I'd go around the house and trim all the little edges and make sure everything was nice. That led to my first expansion. I started getting a couple business leads. The neighbors would see me out mowing the lawn and they would either get too busy or they would go on vacation. And pretty soon I was making about $80 a weekend from about 11, 12 years old to 14. So between the kind of late spring to early fall, I would make a couple $100 in the weekend. And I would put half of that money away to save it and put it away for college. That was something my parents taught me, so that I would have this money set aside to invest in myself at a later time. There's nothing in your life that you're going to get a greater return on your investment on than investing in yourself. That was a big lesson that I learned early on. So I'm mowing my lawns, making my money. One of my favorite memories of that time is I had a Walkman cassette with like the old school kind of headphones. And I had the cassette for Led Zeppelin 4. And I could pretty much finish a lawn in the time it would take me to finish the cassette. So I would jam out to that cassette maybe 3 or 4 times in a weekend. Half that money would go away to college, like I said earlier. And the other half was spent, I don't know, just on like 12-year-old stuff. I was doing a lot of paintballing at the time, actually. It was a sport that was kind of just starting out. And me and my friends would go on the weekends to Challenge Park over near Joliet and just have a ball, just have a blast. So I got my first business. Shout out to my dad for not charging me for the gas or using the lawnmower. He significantly increased my profit margins with that move. Couldn't have gotten started without you. From there, I started to get a little older. I got into high school and I needed something that was going to give me a little bit more hours. I mean, the grass would only grow so fast and I was only willing to travel so far to find customers. And I was riding my bike to football practice. I was actually riding my bike about 25 minutes from my house to the high school. And I would drive past the local park district pool, the Ottawa Street pool. So I signed up, I applied, I got the job as both a lifeguard and a swim instructor. And that led to my kind of next chapter of not really entrepreneurship, but one of the big lessons that I learned about myself. that big lesson that I pulled from that moment in my life, or that time or chapter in my life, was my love of helping people and teaching. So as a swim instructor and a lifeguard, obviously you're in a position to help. You're there to observe. You're there to train and be calm in an emergency. If somebody were to slip and hit their head, or somebody's drowning in a pool, you're training yourself to be alert and to pattern match, to look for things before they happen. That was always one of the best things that we learned, and one of the things that our leaders would teach us is it's better to have caught the kid who you can kind of tell can't swim from jumping off the diving board than letting him jump off the diving board and having to jump off the chair and jump in and save him. Prevention is the number one thing that I learned in that job. And then on top of that, my love of teaching people. It blew my mind that I could spend 8 to 12 weeks with a child between the ages of maybe 6 and 12 was the age range we were working with. And to see the mental and physical transformation that these kids would go through, from not wanting to get into the pool at all at the beginning of a course. And at the end of the course, we could get kids to jump off the diving board into the deep end. And so seeing that change and knowing the mental and emotional impact that that can have on somebody, from doing something that they don't want to do, that they think they can't do, to being in a place where they are excited to jump into the deep end, is a great analogy, not only for life, but I think for business as well. So I've got this kind of whirlwind of sports and entrepreneurship and teaching people and helping people, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. I'm like a junior in high school, and both my math teacher and my physics teacher introduced me to a program at the University of Illinois called Material Science Engineering. A relatively new study. I mean, it's old in the sense that we've been working with stones and metals and ceramics for a long time. Think about samurai swords or ceramic pots, or even all the way back to our earliest ancestors were, shaping stones and shaping wood and different things to create tools and weapons and whatever advantages they could create for themselves. But the study of plastics and metals and biomaterials and all of these electronic materials was a new place of study. And so out of metallurgy and out of the study of rocks and out of the study of minerals and elements came this new engineering discipline called material science engineering. And I immediately had a thought of like, wow, what if I could take this engineering degree and blend it with my love of entrepreneurship, sports, and teaching and helping people? And the thought that I could one day invent something or create something or be a part of a team that created something that would have those three elements together was super exciting for me. So I feel like I found my path. I went away to school, big visions, entrepreneurship. Let's do this. Let's help people. Let's teach people. And I had this kind of like external struggle that I wanted to make a lot of money so that I could support myself and my family and my community, and I could give back to everybody that's helped me throughout my life. But I also had this internal struggle that I didn't want to sacrifice my values. I didn't want to sacrifice my soul or my conscience or whatever it was inside of me. I didn't want to lose the fact that I wanted to help people and teach people. So I had this kind of internal, external struggle of wanting to gain experience and wanting to make money, but also not wanting to sacrifice my goals and my values. And I didn't want to lose that feeling, that priceless feeling of seeing somebody go from where they are to where they want to be, and helping to be a step or helping to be a guiding voice along that journey. So got through school, got to play Division I rugby for the University of Illinois in the inaugural Big Ten sort of formation. There was some Big Ten rugby previously, but rugby has been growing rapidly. It's actually one of the fastest growing sports in America right now, and to be a part of this burgeoning sport that I love so much was so important to me. That again, I had another kind of epiphany of like, how can I use my skills and my talents and my purpose to give back to this sport that has given so much to me. So graduated, looking for jobs. I probably interviewed like 50 different companies. Honestly, I took every interview I could possibly get. But my mindset was, I'm interviewing you. I'm going to spend 40 hours a week with you. I need to have some kind of connection, or there needs to be some kind of path for growth, or something that satisfies my curiosity for me to want to take this role. So I looked at everything. Caterpillar, some of your more traditional stuff. Go be an engineer for Caterpillar. Go be an engineer for some like metals company, like a metal fabricating company, or a casting, maybe a steel plant, for lack of a better word. There was all kinds of like data analysis. Like they would also hire engineers to work in finance, because our brains think a little bit differently than a traditional finance person. But all in all, I needed something that was going to satisfy that daily curiosity. And I found out about a discipline called sales engineering. So a sales engineer is kind of a hybrid salesman / applications engineer. So a great example would be, I got to do a project at the Butterfinger plant. They make almost all of the Butterfingers in the world right here in the state of Illinois. And they had some challenges with quality control where they wanted to monitor the texture of that buttery, gooey stuff in the middle. And so I met with the engineer. He would give me a tour of the facility, kind of like that TV show, How It's Made. I would go into these plants, I would talk to the engineers or the electricians, figure out what their goals were, and then try and build an application using the components that my company sold, sensors. So pressure sensors, laser sensors, temperature sensors. We had all these little tools we could use to monitor things during the process. And in the Butterfinger example, we installed a remote temperature monitor that would monitor the Butterfinger. I don't know, it looked like slop at the time. It was kind of semi-liquid. It was still going through this like cooling belt. And so they wanted to monitor the temperature of the inside of the Butterfinger as it was going down this cooling belt so that they could better control the texture at the end of the process. Now I loved this. I got to see so much stuff. I got to see behind the curtain. Microwave bacon, chicken plants, making tires. I mean, you name it, I probably saw it. Pharmaceutical, steel mills, automotive plants. I got to see essentially how the country is built and all the manufacturing that we're doing here. I got to participate in a lot of it. This was super interesting. I was helping people. I was teaching people things. I had, at the time, what I thought was like the perfect job for me. Now, I still had this kind of entrepreneurial streak in me, but I was loving this job so much that I thought I was going to be there for 5 or 10 years, save up a huge nest egg, and then potentially do something down the line. But I had this kind of like epiphany when I was working on a cheese puff machine. It essentially looks like a Wild West, like Gatling gun, and it just fires out cheese puffs at a rapid rate. I'll actually put a little video in here when I edit it later. So you guys can see it. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, I'm helping people. I'm being creative. I'm able to think on my feet and schedule my own schedule. I had everything I thought I wanted. But then at the end of the day, I was using my skill sets to make cheese puffs. And something I hadn't talked about up until this point is just my love of the human body as a machine. And during college, I realized I didn't know anything about biology because they didn't teach engineers anything about one of the greatest machines that we have control over. And so I became heavily invested in studying biology and nutrition and health and fitness and all of these things to help me be a better rugby player, so that I could be a better rugby player and I could teach some of these things to my teammates so we could collectively be a stronger team and go and win. You know, I loved winning. It wasn't an ego thing. I've lost a lot of games in my life. The first game I ever played at the University of Illinois, we lost by over 100 points to Wisconsin. So I've been through both, but I loved winning. And I loved, again, teaching people and helping people towards this aligned vision, aligned goal. So I had this epiphany while I was working on this cheese puff machine gun that I wasn't doing something that was connected with my full purpose and my full passion. However, it planted a seed in my head that Fortune 500 companies were paying me to come to their manufacturing plants to help them build their machines. So I knew I was valuable, and I knew that someday I would have my own product on those manufacturing lines that would be healthy, that would taste good, and would help people be a better athlete, be a better person, to help the machine of the human body that we all have. So the seed was planted in my head, the cheese puff machine gun. At the time, I was still competing at a high level in the rugby community with the Chicago Lions. Shout out my boys and girls. Fucking the girls are badass. And I got selected to play at the 2014 National Rugby Championships out in Seattle. Man, that was a high. Like, being able to compete at the highest level. There's guys that I played against and with at that tournament, actually, that have competed in the Olympics. I mean, this was the echelon. This was where I wanted to be. And being kind of health conscious, I went out looking for my own snacks on the weekend. And I found some kombucha on an end cap in Seattle. And I read the label, and I'm looking at this stuff like, okay, probiotics, don't know anything about that. Spirulina, B vitamins. It looked healthy, and I grabbed it. The taste wasn't bad, and I bought a couple bottles for the weekend. So I'm at this rugby tournament. If you're not familiar with 7-on-7 rugby, it's a brutal sport. You'll play several games in a day. 7-minute halves, so you're going very hard for 7 minutes, 1 to 2 minute halftime, back at it for another 7 minutes. Between each game, you have maybe an hour to an hour and a half before you're going to kick off for the next game. So after the game, it's literally water, electrolyte tablets, banana, straight into the ice bath, recovery workouts, chugging some kind of caffeine, whether it's through a tablet or a little sugar goo, those little packets, and then straight into the warm-up for the next game. And typically, this can kind of wreak some havoc on your gut. You're either going to get diarrhea or you're going to get constipation. And if you ask any rugby player or any athlete, for that matter, about their poop routine, game day poop routine, there's always something, some kind of ritual they've got to help them navigate the nerves and the stress and the diet that comes with competing at a high level. But I was drinking this kombucha stuff, and it was helping me digest the bananas and the Cliff Bars, and it was helping my energy levels stabilize with all the caffeine that I was intaking, and I had a great tournament. We ended up finishing 4th in the country, but I felt like a champion because I had discovered this thing, and not for lack of looking. I spent hours and hours researching the healthiest foods and the sports drinks that to drink or not drink. I was drinking water, and I was drinking this like organic hemp protein that had fair trade cocoa and organic coconut palm sugar and organic hemp seeds. So I was trying to find the cleanest, healthiest stuff, and probiotics and kombucha were nowhere to be found. I cannot remember reading a single thing about it until I found it on that end cap on that shelf that weekend at that tournament. So I got home from the tournament, continued on with my life and my day job, but I started buying kombucha, several bottles a week from my local grocery store. Actually, it was hard to find. I had to look for a grocery store that had it, but there was one not too far from my house at the time. And just started feeling the benefits. My digestive system was working a lot better. My bowel movements were regular. My energy levels felt more stable. I felt like I almost got like a third lung. I know it's like a weird analogy, but for the first time in my life, it was something that was such a small addition to my regimen that had such a massive impact. And I couldn't get it out of my brain. I just kept thinking about it. And then my second epiphany came working on a project at New Glarus Brewery up in Wisconsin. One of the top beer producers in the state. They're employee owned. They had this beautiful estate. I'll throw a couple pictures in the video here after I do some editing. And I had this immediate vision. I can remember it so clearly now. I was standing in one of their production rooms looking at all these flow monitoring sensors and like pressure sensors and temperature sensors that were monitoring the whole process, and it just hit me like right in my third eye. Like, wow, what if I could make a kombucha sports drink version? What if I could take the probiotic healthy element that I was getting from kombucha and make my own version of it? At the time it was GT's kombucha. It still is. He's the biggest player. Love him. Shout out GT for blazing a path for all of us. I just wanted something that didn't have juices or sugars added to it after the primary fermentation. And I wanted something more formulated. Like, I wanted herbs and teas in that blend that were specifically selected to help digest my food, to help turn it into energy, to help expel the wastes after my digestion system was done breaking down my food and sending all those nutrients into my blood to help rebuild my cells. And it hit me hard. I mean, I couldn't stop thinking about it. And honestly, I think I was homebrewing my own kombucha within a month of that second epiphany. So I had this big vision, and it was huge. I mean, I could see almost every part of it. It's a big brewery, tap room, and then a performance and recovery center. So a place where athletes could also convene to learn about some of these things. So a place you could work out, you could do yoga, you could do mixed martial arts, you could do strength training, and then you could go do an ice bath and a sauna and maybe a hot tub if you wanted to after that. But there's just this vision for fueling and training the next generation of athletes here in America. Now, I didn't have much of a plan, to be honest, but I went and got a nutritional certification. So I became a certified nutritional therapist. I spent 6 months doing an online training course, researching the different functional herbs and teas that I think would be useful as an athlete, or for anybody for that matter, really. And I started researching probiotics. And the third epiphany that tied all these things together for me was just the lack of information and awareness on how important microbes and probiotics are to our health. there was a burgeoning body of research that was showing that we have a brain here, but we also have a brain here, and that electrical signals are traveling back and forth. And as the bacteria or the viruses or the yeasts or the fungus, there's literally like an Amazon rainforest inside of your gut of over 10,000 different species of microbes, some of which are neutral, they're just kind of hanging along for the ride, some of which are pathogenic, meaning they're actually parasites. They're there taking energy from you, they're there sending you signals not to work out, they're there sending you signals to eat highly processed foods and fast foods, and but some of them were also beneficial. Like you could put warrior microbes in your body that would then boost your immune system and help fight off these pathogenic microbes. And it blew my mind that nobody was talking about this, especially in the athletic community. So just this merging of like entrepreneurship, sports, my work in industrial manufacturing, coinciding with this burgeoning research that we have two brains, and that I felt like I was kind of at the leading edge of researching and looking to be healthy, and I couldn't find anybody at the time that was talking about it in such a way. So I got this nutritional certification. I actually started homebrewing kombucha right out of my mom's kitchen almost immediately. Started coming up with my own formulas and just started testing the market. Pretty soon I was selling kombucha to my friends at my yoga studio, my friends at my CrossFit gym, and then my teammates on the rugby team. Now, so that was the plan, formulate this sports drink kombucha, see if I could find product market fit. And I didn't know any of these words at the time. I was just kind of bumbling along, doing my own thing. And my conflict was, while I now had this new passion and purpose, I was spending a lot of my time at my day job working on Cheez-Its and cheese puffs and stuff that I was vehemently opposed to. Things that I was actively trying to keep out of my life, but it was paying the bills for me. So I actually ended up leaving my corporate job at the end of 2014 and went full-time on Kombucha January of 2015. The first thing I did was I bought a ticket to Long Beach, California, and a entry ticket to what was the third annual KombuchaCon, which is the kind of Brewers Association for kombucha. So I got to go meet and talk with the biggest players, GTs, Health Aid, Brew Doctor, Kavita, all these guys were there, and I was able to go pick their brains. And the keynote speaker was the CEO of Deschutes Brewery, a beer brewery out of Portland, Oregon. It might not be Portland. I know it's Oregon, though. And he stood up there and he showed this video of the Craft Beer Brewers Association. And he said, one day the kombucha industry will look like this, and you guys will be the craft beer of health and wellness. You will replace Coca-Cola and the sodas and all these high fructose corn syrup products that are being sold to people. And I'm getting goosebumps even right now thinking about it. But that's when I knew I was on the right path. I knew I was valuable. I had the skill set to do it. I had the purpose, I had the passion. Now I needed to figure out like how to start a company. So I just started one step at a time. I filed an LLC. I met with my uncle, who's a tax attorney. He helped me get that set up. I started making products. I started getting a label. I started selling, black market kombucha. That's how I got my start. Pretty soon, I remember a month where I did almost $2,000 to $3,000 in cash, basically out of my mom's kitchen. And that's when I knew I really had something, but I had to be careful about how to do this. I had to figure out a way to get from my mom's kitchen to Whole Foods. And how did I do it? I found a friend of mine whose dad owned a catering kitchen in Naperville. We kind of got our start there. Then I found another kombucha brewer in the city of Chicago. We were renting 1 day a week from them. And then that started in July of 2017. So that was kind of when we were officially licensed with the city of Chicago. We had a license to produce, to manufacture, to wholesale. And we went from my mom's kitchen in July of 2017 and started renting our own space. In July of 2018, we actually got our own facility, a private space. And in June of 2021, got onto the Whole Foods shelves, which was the ultimate goal. Shortly after, we actually got onto all of the Mariano's shelves as well, which is a Kroger subsidiary, one of the biggest retailers in the country. So part of this plan and this mission too was not only just to sell products, but to educate people and teach people about the powers of the microbiome. And another venture inside of the business that we've also taken on is teaching other people how to make their own kombucha. So over the years, we've successfully taught hundreds of other people not only how to make their own kombucha, but we've sold over $250,000 worth of kombucha to people who didn't know how to make it or didn't have enough time to make it for themselves. So the goal here was not start a huge CPG company and make a bunch of money. The goal was, wow, there's this new world. There's new discoveries happening in our nervous system and how we have two brains. And I wanted to share this epiphany with everybody. So whether it was teaching somebody how to do it for themselves or selling them products that were ready to drink, that was the goal. That was the mission. And we've done it. I mean, essentially went from my mom's kitchen to Whole Foods in 4 years. And during that time, we've also successfully taught hundreds of people how to make their own kombucha. So the transformation is still ongoing, obviously. But to think of where I was when this all started back in Seattle in 2014, from when I first tried kombucha, to July of 2017, moving into a facility to make licensed kombucha, and then from July of 17 to July of 2021 being on the shelves of Whole Foods, it still blows my mind. But I'm enjoying the journey, and I'm realizing now I want to get back to this energy of giving back to people and teaching people and helping them learn about some of the things that I've learned during this journey. Now, my transformation went from being a solopreneur to now having 10 employees and working with world-class athletes and top-tier retailers. What I'd like to help you do is go from no information about the microbiome to understanding the benefits of the information, to understanding the benefits of the microbiome and what probiotics can do for you. And whether you decide to make your own kombucha or you decide to buy our kombucha, and anywhere in between, I'm hoping that this has helped you in some way.